In 1984, Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom hit theatres and redefined the blockbuster. It was a masterpiece of adventure and horror. A non-stop thrill ride of mine carts, booby traps, and a desperate race to save a village by recovering its sacred stone. A film that scarred a generation of kids with its vivid heart removal and darker tone. It was lightning in a bottle, and like all cinematic lightning, the video game industry was desperate to catch it. But what if I told you the most fateful 8-bit adaptation of that film wasn't even an official Indiana Jones title at all? It was a Japan-only exclusive, a game that bleeds the spirit of Temple of Doom from every single pixel. This is Arumana no Kiseki, or The Miracle of Arumana. A forgotten adventure released by Konami in 1987. It plays like the secret Indiana Jones game we never got. A game so brazen in its inspiration that its hero is a fedora-wearing adventurer who feels impossibly familiar. A Konami title from their absolute golden age, built for a forgotten piece of Nintendo hardware, and it carries the design DNA of some of the most legendary games ever made. Today, we're blowing the dust off a Famicom Relic and uncovering the story of one of the best Indiana Jones games that was never actually an Indiana Jones game. To really get where a game like Arumana no Kiseki comes from, you have to picture the mid-1980s. Over in Hollywood, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were dominating the cultural landscape. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom had reinvented the action hero. Indiana Jones didn't represent your typical super spy or a muscle-bound commando. He was a brainy professor who got by with his wits, his fists, and of course, his iconic bullwhip. He explored forgotten ruins, dodged ancient traps, and punched bad guys, all for fortune and glory.
Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory.
The pulp adventures of the 30s and 40s were back, and audiences couldn't get enough. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Konami was having a golden age of its own. They were the undisputed masters of the 8-bit action game. It was the era of Contra, Gradius, and a little title called Akumajo Dracula, which we would soon come to know as Castlevania. Konami's style was unmistakable. Tight controls, killer soundtracks, and a difficulty that was tough but fair, and graphics that pushed the Famicom to its limits. They were experts at capturing the essence of action cinema, turning the energy of films like Alien, Predator, and Rambo into interactive form. So when they saw the globe-trotting, whip-swinging action of Indiana Jones, it's no surprise they saw the blueprint for a perfect video game. There was just one problem. They didn't have the license. But in the 80s, that was more of a guideline than a rule. Their solution was brilliantly simple. They'd just make their own, and they had the perfect platform for it, a quirky Japan-exclusive add-on called the Famicom Disk System. This peripheral used rewritable floppy disks instead of cartridges. It allowed for more complex audio, thanks to an extra channel, and gave developers a flexible format for experimental or niche titles that often never left Japan. In August of 1987, one such title was born, a game that looked, felt, and played like an unofficial adaptation of Temple of Doom. The plot setup feels very familiar. A magical red jewel has been stolen from a remote village, and its disappearance has turned all the villagers to stone. A lone adventurer arrives to brave dangerous, trap-filled temples and retrieve the sacred stone.
They took the stone from here.
The parallels to Temple of Doom's quest for the Sivalinga stones are impossible to miss. And there's our hero. His name is Kaito, but he's Indiana Jones in all but name. The khaki look, the brown fedora, it's all there. is so on the nose that it moves past being a copy and becomes a tribute. This was Konami wearing their inspiration proudly on their sleeve, promising an adventure of the same calibre. The game takes you through 6 stages of treacherous caves, ancient temples, and crumbling ruins. And the enemies are exactly what you'd hope for. Swarms of bats, spiders, skeletons, and thugs. There are even snakes. Of course there are snakes. One level even features a minecart sequence, a direct nod to one of Temple of Doom's most famous set pieces. The entire atmosphere is steeped in that pulp adventure tone, the feeling of delving into places forgotten by time. Miracle of Arumana is a masterful translation of cinematic language into 8-bit mechanics. It successfully captures that feeling of being an adventurer, and does it better than many of the official Indiana Jones games of that time. If Miracle of Arumana were just an Indiana Jones costume, it would probably be a forgotten footnote. The pure, uncut Konami gameplay is what makes it a hidden gem, a fast-paced, demanding action platformer that pulls ideas from Konami's other legendary franchises. The heart of the game is its unique movement. Kaito can jump, but his main tool for getting around the huge vertical levels is a grappling hook. By pressing up an attack, you fire a rope at a 45-degree angle, grabbing onto the ledge above. This system was an evolution of an idea from an earlier Konami arcade game, Roc'n Rope, and here it defines the whole experience, creating a unique rhythm of grappling and climbing that feels totally distinct. It might be less precise than the arm in Capcom's Bionic Commando, but there's an improvisational flair that perfectly fits the Indiana Jones fantasy. To deal with enemies, Kaito has a whole arsenal of sub-weapons. You start with throwing knives, but can find limited use items like bombs, a powerful handgun, bowlers, and a spiked ball for breaking open secret passages. This weapon switching, combined with respawning enemies, gives the game a relentless, arcade-style feel that forces you to stay on your toes. It's challenging, and the controls can feel a bit quirky and frustrating at times, but it's a classic case of Konami-hard. A difficulty that feels tough to begin with, but ultimately rewarding to master. And you can't talk about a classic Konami game without mentioning the presentation. The graphics are pretty good for 1987, with Konami's signature sprites creating detailed, varied levels. But the real star, as with most NES Konami games, is the soundtrack. The music is absolutely phenomenal. Composed by Kinuyo Yamashita, who also scored the original Castlevania, and Kouji Murata. Thanks to the Famicom Disk System's extra sound channel, the score has a richness that few cartridge games could match. It uses that extra hardware to create a sound, perfectly captures the feel of a Hollywood adventure score, making every moment feel that much more epic. Miracle of Arumana is a brilliant fusion of cinematic homage and top-tier game design. So why is it a forgotten secret instead of a celebrated classic? The biggest reason is simple. It was a prisoner of its platform. The game was released exclusively on the Famicom Disk System in Japan and never saw an official release in North America or Europe. For decades, the only way to play it was to import the hardware or navigate the world of emulation. It was also overshadowed by games with a much bigger reach. In 1988, Capcom would release a home version of Bionic Commando, a game with a more refined grappling mechanic. That same year, Konami itself released Contra and continued to build the Castlevania series, both of which became global hits. Against titans like those, a quirky Indiana Jones knockoff struggled to find a lasting audience. The game's high difficulty and unique controls also likely limited its mainstream appeal. That grappling hook takes getting used to, and the constant barrage of enemies can feel punishing if you aren't used to the unforgiving 80s game design. While its fans see a tough but fair challenge, many players at the time probably just bounced off its steep learning curve. As a result, Miracle of Arumana fell into obscurity, becoming a cult classic for dedicated importers and retro gaming archaeologists, a fitting fate for a game about uncovering hidden treasures. It never had the official license, but it captures the soul of Indiana Jones' pulp adventures more effectively than many games that did. Of course, we now have better licensed games, like Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventure on the Super Nintendo, The Infernal Machine on Nintendo 64, and the newest game that I haven't played but looks incredible,
Indiana Jones.
But for any fan of retro action games or classic adventure films, it's a treasure worth seeking out. Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory. Till next time, Crypt Dwellers.